Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss some of the policies that Rishi Sunak has recently been causing distress with and how there is no plan to actually implement them. Rishi Sunak keeps insisting he's working hard every day to deliver for the people of Britain, and you ask him to see the plans for any of them and he gets as upset as when you ask him when the election's going to be. But the policies he's firing off and has been ever since he became Prime Minister are not policies in the normal sense. They're just red meat to appease the far right in his party and a desperate attempt to win back their voters from Reform UK. Beyond that, there is no intent at all. I mean, let's look at three of his very recent policies: abolishing national insurance, removing sickness benefits from those with serious mental illness, and changing PIP, the personal independence payments, in a way that is supposed to remove it entirely from some people in receipt of it. Sunak is not going to abolish national insurance, not now, not even in the next parliament, even if he somehow wins the election. This is because whatever way you can come up with to actually achieve it would screw pensioners over, and the one thing Tories cannot afford to do is screw pensioners over. And this is because retired pensioners do not pay national insurance, but they do use public services and they do pay other taxes. So let's say you manage the abolition of national insurance by raising other taxes, income tax being the most obvious. This would mean taxing pensioners more because they pay income tax, but they don't pay national insurance. There's no way a Conservative government would do that. Indeed, the news today, or maybe it was yesterday, I've seen it today, shows a memo written by Thatcher's Chancellor Nigel Lawson, whom Sunak says he admires, who said exactly this in the 80s. You will screw over pensioners. We cannot do this. Another way would be to cut £46 billion worth of public services. That's not realistic, and would also screw over pensioners who rely upon those services. Or the government could slash the state pension. Obviously, the Conservatives would not do this either. So Sunak has a policy, but there's no plan. And it's not just that the plan isn't published. There really is no plan to do it. In fact, what the national insurance policy shows is that Sunak is happy to announce a policy where he cannot even answer the basic follow-up question about it. No one can credibly believe he's going to carry it out. It shows that he's not even trying to sound plausible. So then let's come to some of the more recent policies causing real distress. Sunak has recently said that we should stop benefits for people with mental illness and also reform PIP to squeeze or to actually remove these payments from some people with disabilities. So what Sunak has done here is attack very vulnerable people, people who already cannot live their life normally, which is why they're in receipt of these benefits, people who already have or would be particularly prone to mental illness, for which treatment is almost impossible to access. And now Sunak is claiming these people, that is making them think their life is about to get way worse, thus causing extra distress and arguably making existing mental health problems way worse. But he has no plan to do either of these things. In terms of the PIP, the Department for Work and Pensions has just launched, like literally yesterday, launched a consultation. The consultation would be the first phase in changing the system. Needless to say, if you have something to say on the matter, I've put a link in the description below so you can feed into that consultation if you weren't already aware of it. The consultation ends in late July. After this, a plan would need to be developed to change the current system. This takes time. I want to just point out the Conservatives introduced PIP in the first place along with universal credit. It took them 3 years. It takes time to come up with a plan. Even though they had it in the manifesto, they didn't call it those in the manifesto, but their manifesto, their 2010 manifesto, so when they were in opposition, talked about the need to reform these payments, right? Which is what they did. So they came to government. Were they able to do it within a few months? No, it took them 3 years. It takes time to come up with a plan which will have a major impact on the budget. And then you need to introduce it in a budget. Well, not only does that take time that does not exist, but they have no more budgets before the election. In fact, the Conservatives have said they're not even going to have any more spending reviews before the election. Also, I would just point this out. The reason people are worried is because it would devastate lives. And it sounds exactly like the sort of thing the Tories would want to do. Absolutely. But therein lies the clue as to why they can't do it. If the Tories could do what Sunak says he wants to do, they'd have already done it. They've been in power for 14 years and they would love nothing more than to carry on robbing the poor to pay the already rich. After 14 years, they have already squeezed benefits as much as they can. They've done what they had a plan for. The same applies with removing benefits from those with serious mental illness. It would need reviews, planning, a budget. In fact, doing this would be even more impossible for the Tories than butchering PIP. Lots of Tory voters don't actually know people with serious disabilities who are therefore in receipt of PIP. Relatively easy, therefore, to demonise them. But almost everyone knows someone who has or has had a serious mental illness in a way that's made working difficult or even impossible. So it's way harder to demonise in this area. But it would still be the same process. You'd need a consultation, you'd need reviews, including parliamentary select committee, phases, plans, and then a budget, and then for MPs to vote on that budget. Sunak doesn't have any stage of the process completed. What he's done is thrown out some red meat ahead of the local elections because he's desperate. The way the polls are looking, the Conservatives should just about breathe a sigh of relief when the results come out. In other words, they should be bad, not catastrophic. The way to tackle that, by the way, is there needs to be a real push on tactical voting and getting the turnout as high as possible. If you know someone who's thinking, oh, these don't matter, these elections, yet tell them that Rishi Sunak thinks they matter, so they should as well. Get out and vote. Then this Friday could be really bad for Sunak, really bad. Like, he's pulling every trick he can to try and get his base support out. And then for the general election, he'll use these policies as the basis for fiddling his spending plans to pretend he can afford to promise more tax cuts than he really can. But he can't simply announce a major new spending policy one week and implement it the next. Changes like this take a long time to work out. Over a year if you're rushing, because it's got to be included as part of your budget. As I say, it took them 3 years to implement the last major reform. Now, sure, you could say, well, they were in coalition with the Lib Dems. It might take a bit longer. OK, it might have required some more talking about it, sure. It didn't add 2.5 years to the process. Something like this takes a very long, it does take years. And it still requires a budget to implement as a final stage. Cutting a few billion in taxes without a budget, that's one thing. Even that was inadvisable, but they could do that. Reordering over £150 billion is a very different prospect. I mean, look at another one of his appeasement policies, stop the boats. He announced this over 15 months ago. Have the boats stopped? No. What's the latest on the boats? Oh, we've got record numbers of boats. In fact, try to think of a policy that Rishi Sunak has come out with, which he's actually implemented. May take you a while. So as distressing as Sunak's latest statements are, they are just that, distressing statements. The next actual changes to the welfare system will be by a Labour government. Sunak and his merry band of murder clowns will be long gone. But as I say, there is a consultation on PIP taking place. If you have a view on it, check out the link in the description below to have your thoughts. It will still be useful information because the Labour government will have access to that information then, who will ultimately be acting on it. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe for further content and click the like button. You can also sign up for memberships if you'd like to support the channel further. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.